If all goes well, then this will be the last tape I'll have to record. More for posterity's sake than anything else. I don't know. Maybe it'll end up as a piece of evidence for the supernatural somewhere down the line. Or perhaps this entire set of recordings will be remembered as the diary of a guilt-ridden man's descent into madness for psychology students to overanalyze. I don't know, and at this point I don't care. I just want all of this to be over. I guess I'll start from when I first woke up. I listened to the tape that Bastard Tim left me and promptly threw up when I found out that he had another meal in my body. Fucker had a sick sense of humor, making Mexican food with a Mexican. It'd almost be funny if I wasn't on the receiving end of the joke. And his food. He was right about the stink, too. I swear I woke up with a bitter, sour aftertaste coating my tongue. Even the blood-covered convenience store smelt worse than anywhere else I'd ever woke up in. The same bitter sourness that tainted my taste buds permeated the humid air. Luckily, that terrible aftertaste got drowned out by my vomit once everything Tim ate came back out of my mouth. Once I finished clearing my entire stomach in the gas station bathroom, which somehow smelt worse than the actual crime scene, I pulled out my phone to check where I was. I already knew I was in New Mexico from Tim's recording, but I didn't know just how isolated I was. Judging by the map, I was at the only functioning gas station for 100 miles or so on either side. Whoever decided to build a gas station for long-distance drivers there in the middle of nowhere must have been a saint for doing so, but an idiot for only hiring one morbidly obese immigrant who couldn't speak English to man it. When it came time to hide his body, I got the bright idea to stuff him into one of the caskets I was transporting. I didn't actually think far enough to figure out what I was going to do with it afterwards. But it was the only idea that came to mind at the time. Maybe I would have tried burning it in a pile or burying it in the desert. I don't know. It sounded like a brilliant plan when I first came up with it. Only problem was all the caskets I was carrying were in normal people's sizes. Not whatever gigantic size that obese victim was. Had Tim tried to stab this guy to death like he did with all his other victims, he probably would have had to use a samurai sword to get past all the fat. I had to cut his body up into multiple pieces with some power tools I found behind the counter store. I don't know why they were there, but if I had to venture a guess, it was probably there for him to fix things up in the store if the need arose so that they wouldn't have to wait for the nearest handyman to drive 100 miles to reach them. I stuffed every piece of the man into several trash bags, then stuffed those bags into one of the caskets I was supposed to be delivering. Even with the thick trash bags between them, the blood still flowing from the sawed-up corpse seeped into the white cloth of the casket's interior. I'm no cleaning expert. The most cleaning I've ever done was wipe off some breadcrumbs from my truck driver's seat. But I'm pretty sure that no amount of detergent could get rid of those bloodstains. I knew that there was no way I could deliver the caskets after that, so I resolved to get rid of both the casket and the coffin inside it. Somehow. When all that was over and done with, I cleaned up the convenience store as best I could before loading the casket with the body back into my truck. My plan was to drive away about 50 miles. It's both far enough for the nearest town to not be found by its residents, and far enough from the gas station that it'd take a while for police to connect the dots on the off chance it's ever found. So that's exactly what I did. It wasn't easy, but I managed to tough through the New Mexico sun and bury it deep in the dry earth. After that, I continued to the nearest town to rest and calm my nerves however I could. I would have helped myself to a cup of coffee in the gas station, but the smell killed my appetite, and I didn't want to leave any more evidence than I already did. I drove until I reached a tiny little town which name I won't include. I'm still there now, but if all goes well, it'd be the place where Tim finally dies for good. If I'm lucky, he'll be burning in hell before the week is over. I've never given New Mexico much thought in the past. To me, it was just another hot, dry-ass state that I'd have to drive through for my job. It didn't have anything particularly interesting for me. It only stuck out in my mind because it shared the same name as a neighboring country to the south that a lot of Americans hate for some reason. I didn't think that it'd be here that I'd finally find the solution to all the problems that had been plaguing me over the past hellish week. The entire town was engaged in the Day of the Dead celebration when I got there. All the better for me, since it meant nobody was paying attention to a passing trucker. At least that's what I thought. Amidst the hundreds of people in flamboyant dresses and painted skull faces, one little old lady stared at me. She wasn't in a fancy costume like everyone else, but she still had some weird occult stuff on top of her uglily patterned green dress. Colorful beads decorated her graying dreadlocks, and a silver medallion with some sort of symbol etched into it. No matter where I moved in the crowd, her glassy blue eyes followed me around like a predator tracking its prey before a strike. At first, I thought she was just curious about an outsider in town. It probably wasn't every day that their little town in the middle of nowhere got to see a new face. I rushed into an open-air cafe to get away from her glare and ordered a coffee. Depending on how things turn out, that was either a terrible mistake or the best decision I've ever made. Not a minute later, after I sat my ass on the leather seat, the old lady who'd been giving me the evil eye walked through the door and sat on the seat across from me. I was about to ask her what the hell she was doing when she said something that chilled me to the bone despite the heat. "There is an evil spirit within you." Those were her exact words. I couldn't give her a reply. She was right. My eyes drifted to the amulet around her neck. Whatever the symbol etched on it was, it didn't belong to any mainstream religion I knew of. She placed a business card on the table and slid it towards me without a word before getting up and leaving. On it was an address and a phone number to some sort of psychic practice. I never believed in this sort of stuff before, but after all I've been through, putting my life into the hands of someone with more knowledge of all this occult nonsense than me sounded like a pretty good idea. I've been mulling the idea of going to the address ever since. If that lady was legit, I could finally get rid of the evil possessing me. If not then, at worst, I'd have to hide that old lady's body after Tim's taken over and killed her. In the end, I decided I've already stained my hands with plenty of innocent blood already, so one more on the death list wouldn't make much of a difference. I'm going to hell no matter what anyways. I'm going to meet with this so-called psychic after I finish recording. Hopefully she'll be able to help me. If not, then God help both of us.